representing women.
Most things that men do in their life that bring them purpose and meaning can ultimately be linked to the ultimate desire that that thing which they achieve will get the attention of women, right? So, for example, if you think of rock stars, down to the last one, if you ask them, why did you want to become a rock star? Not a single one says, because it was for the greater love of music. It was because I learned that that's how I can get women. So, you know, Picasso gets a long lineup of women, even though he's a very unattractive in a stereotypical manly sense. He wasn't an attractive, handsome, he wasn't tall, dashing, and so on. But yet he can get tons of gorgeous women to line up so that he can have sex with them because he was Picasso, right? The great writer, the great singer, the great soccer player, the great whatever is doing all these things ultimately because he knows that that's a path towards getting the attention of women. There's nothing that men desire more in terms of a currency than to have a potential access to women. So, by the way, that speaks to really, if you truly understood evolutionary theory, you'd recognize that women have a lot more power than what the feminist project convinces women that they have, because sexual selection, which is one of the fundamental features of Darwinian theory, right? There's natural selection and sexual selection. For most species, sexual selection is carried via female mate choice. So in other words, it is the recurring choices of females choosing the right males that determines the evolutionary trajectory of that species. So what more do you want as a feminist statement than you have that power? So it really is a form of, you know, you talk about, today we say gaslighting. It's epistemological gaslighting. It is the exact opposite. I mean, think about it. Men, their biggest frustration in life is that they present themselves to the world hoping to get access to a worthy woman, but yet women stand on their pedestal and go, no, 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 right? Now, what happens later in life? So when both men and women are 20, women hold all the power. And therefore, men have to learn that they're going to be rejected 100 times until the 101st time someone agrees to go on a date with them. Now, at 50 years old, when women have, just through a thing called life, they've lost some of their mating value because the 20-year-old woman doesn't have the same mate value in a very crass evolutionary currency, right? She doesn't have the same mate value. But the man who's now 50 and now has the currency that women desire, which is he's got high status, then the women at that age bracket will say, this is unfair, this is the patriarchy, this is grotesque, right? These disgusting 50-year-old going for the 24-year-old where we're standing here, it's the patriarch. So, but you didn't care, you weren't upset when you were 20 and you held all the power in the world when you rejected 150 guys and to your point, rejoiced at being able to sit on your pedestal and reject all those guys. You suddenly become boo-hoo-hoo, the victim, when at 50 years old, the high, powerful man is able to exercise some autonomy over his mate choices. He shouldn't have that power. So it truly is a pathological form of diabolical power grabbing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And it's even worse than that, because even at the moment when the woman has the most power and doesn't, complain about it or recognize any kind of asymmetry, she's also complaining about it at the same time, because she's complaining that she's being objectified and she's being sexually harassed. And remember that video about the woman walking through New York City, and it was edited down to, she had a camera in her backpack or something, and it was edited down to 4 minutes to prove how horrible it was to be a woman walking through New York City. And I'm sure, out of the 18 hours of filming or whatever it was, the filmmaker decided to choose what seemed to be the most predatory and threatening 4 minutes. But even most of that was guys saying, hi, honey, hi, beautiful, in a perfectly, how are you doing today? I mean, most of it was really strikingly benign and nothing that any sane person would turn into some kind of project of victimhood. But it's just like the refusal of empathy for the experience of men, the utter lack of interest in imagining the male self, while at the same time the total demand that men think of nothing but the woman's perspective
So,
is really astounding.
so 2 points. First, a little quip. The entire country of Italy would cease to exist if that clip were, a form of street violence, because you don't want to walk around in Italy where, now, of course, nobody is suggesting that you ever be physically violent, that you harass, that you intimidate, but the whole art of seduction that endless women find incredibly sexually attractive would become, so Italy is no longer allowed to exist. We no longer want, and of course I'm being stereotypical, it's not just in Italy. There are many countries where men are a lot more bold in their pursuit of women. By the way, I've received many emails from women who say, dear Dr. Saad, my name is so and so, I'm from Sweden, can you point me to where there's any longer any Swedish men that I can meet, because nobody will
Right.
come up and talk to me. Right.
Yeah.
So really, you're putting men in an impossible position. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot for a second.